second.
Yeah.
That they wanted to try to make sure he didn't, was tamped down, that they didn't have that.
Yeah.
Historically, I guess, is that a trend sometimes?
Yeah. Inflation is
it.
really tough to, once it gets this high, you only got the 9% plus. Once it gets out of control like that, it's hard because it's not like a matter of just kind of pulling all down at the same time. There's different, different pieces of it. Right now, we're food and housing is the biggest problem.
They were like insurance and things, because those are late lagging indicator, because insurance is going to go up because of house prices going up.
I pulled up a chart after we go in, we live our whole life off the charts. Because I was going to make a reference to that. And that was a good time as any. But it was talking about inflation came in hot at 3.5%, 3.4. They're trying to get it to 2. So just an example of food, beef, baby formula up 10% year over year. Beef roast up 11%. Food away from home still up 6.1, vending machine 6.2, insurance, I saw that here, motor vehicle insurance up 22%.
I see that was a big one.
So some of it depends on what you use the most. Colleges are still raising tuition at a higher than inflationary rate. It's just a lot.
CEOs are still getting big time salaries.
They are.
Hey, yeah, there's more than one.
Somebody in the last days.
Oh, we're live.
I think it was Dillard.
I think it was Dillard.
I think it was. It was in the paper. Was that today or yesterday, probably?
Yeah.
Take it over, Tyler.
All right. Well, I will call this meeting to order. Our chairperson, Lisa, couldn't be here today, so I'm filling in, and it looks like we've got all other members present. We do have the Moons with us to present first quarter investment results, but we'll go ahead and proceed with our other agenda items because Ms. Mill needs to leave a little bit earlier than normal. So the first item I have is we have 4 requests for refunds. Employees that have left and would like their contributions back. Brian Clark in the amount of $6,468. Rodney Hendricks, $14,147.37. Jimmy Pulver, $17,279.31. And George Ramirez, $1,555.90. And these were all post-tax contributions, so they'll get their full amount back, just under $40,000 total. So if nobody has any questions on that, I would take a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor of approving these refunds, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Okay. And then we have one employee that has turned in paperwork stating she wishes to retire effective May the 2nd, 2024. It's Edwina Cope, who works at our Emergency Operations Center. And I don't think I have any detail. Oh, no, here we go. Date of hire, May 2, 2003. So she's got her 20 years in, plus 1. And her monthly pension gross will be $2,217.65.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor of Ms. Cope's retirement, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no.
Do we need to approve the minutes?
Yeah.
Well, that would be a good thing, wouldn't it?
I make a motion that we approve the minutes
Well, thank you.
as
Ms. Smith.
submitted.
Second.
Derek, second. I guess everybody got those from Lisa's email.
Yes.
You had a chance to review. Okay. Motion and a second to approve minutes from our March 14th meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no.
See what you miss when you go first.
Now we'll turn it over to the gentleman from Meridian Investment Advisors to bring us the news. We'll see
Okay.
whether or not it's good or not good.
Okay, we'll do that. Well, we're kind of getting under the wire. We finished a 6-month period where the stock market's up, almost 30%. The next quarter, not quite so sure what the next quarter is going to look like, but we're thrilled to be here at this meeting to report. Marshall's going to talk about the stock market first, so I'm going to let him start with the booklet that you've got there on page 1.
Yeah, let's go to the first slide here, and this is a chart you see us bringing all the time, so I'm sorry it's a little bit redundant, but we just found it to be a really good tool to kind of help clients zoom out a bit. So this is the S&P 500 large U.S. stocks going back to 1996, and as you can see, this quarter stocks have hit all-time highs, and your portfolio reflects that. So the natural emotion there that tends to come up when you hit all-time highs is, so well, maybe we should sell some stocks. And if you'll flip to page 2, I'll kind of help dispel that emotion a little bit. So this is a study that's done that tracks stock performance at different times. So you'll see the green bars there reflect forward returns from all-time highs, and versus the gray being all other days. And what it shows is that historically returns from all-time highs have actually been better than all other days. So that alone isn't a reason for us to sell stocks or get more conservative. I think we can still achieve some good returns from here.
In our business, it's one of the advantages that we have over probably the everyday person is that we don't get as emotional about things and don't worry quite as much about. But there is a tendency in our business for everyone, professionals and retail investors, to hold on to losers too long and sell winners too soon. Okay, just saying, is if you sell a loser, you're saying I made a mistake. And so, behaviorally, that's a little harder thing to do. And when things are busting out new heights, you have a tendency, it just can't continue to go. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So this is a good perspective of the same thing with the whole market.
On page 3, just kind of an extension of the same conversation. So, think of bull markets, stocks are going up, bear markets, stocks are going down. And just the gist of this here is that bear markets are severe, but most of the time they're short, lasting on average 11 months. You saw we had a really quick, maybe recession bear market in 2020, another pretty quick one in 2022 when stocks were down 25% at one point. And you can see we've entered a new bull market. And the thing to take away from this is that bull markets can last a lot longer than you would expect. And so we're still optimistic about what can happen from here. On page 4, aside from allocating the pensions money towards stocks and bonds and cash, we're also thinking about ways to allocate your money inside of those broader categories. And one thing that we've done probably over the last 18 months or so is start to put more money towards small company stocks. And when I say small, it's kind of relative. Think of a large company as Apple or Amazon, and a small company being still $2 to $10 billion worth. So what this shows is the divergence in valuation between large U.S. stocks and small U.S. stocks. And what this shows is large company stocks have gotten a little bit expensive, and small company stocks, their valuations are much cheaper. So we think that's a good place to put money to work, and we've done that over the last 18 months or so. At the portfolio level and in the individual stock portion, which we'll talk about later, you'll notice some companies in there that might be on the smaller side of things.
Did you want to talk about this individual sheet now? You want to do that?
Yeah, we'll do it when we talk about the portfolio.
Okay. All right. Well, on page 5, this is information. I'm looking at these top 2 charts seem to be a little bit fuzzier than I thought they were going to be, but we're talking about the bond market here, and interest rates specifically is how that works. And as you recall, I've said it many times, as interest rates go up, the prices of bonds go down, and vice versa. On this top left chart, I wanted to show you U.S. aggregate down 0.8% year to date. The aggregate is to the bond market what the S&P 500 is to the stock market. It's just kind of the broad bond return of bonds in the market. You can see down. So those different types of bonds, treasuries and treasury inflation protected securities, investment grade those are corporate bonds, all down, had a negative return for the quarter, which means that interest rates popped up, during the quarter. And since then, mostly today, have had a pretty good sizable jump in interest rates because of the inflation reading that we had come out this morning that was hotter than was hoped for. The 10-year Treasury yield or interest rate yesterday was about 4.28%, and today it's closer to 4.5%. That's a huge jump in rates in one day. So we'll see about that. And then on the right, you can see the top right, the key metrics. So if you again go to that 10-year Treasury yield, current, this would have been on March 31st, a yield of 4.2%. And as I said, today it's around closer to 4.5%. 1 year ago, rates really haven't changed that much. They have actually decreased a little bit across the board, but increased a little bit across the board, but very, very close to where they were. If you look at the middle left chart, corporate profits rose to another all-time high. And this is the fourth quarter of 24. Where would that be? It's got to be a misprint. That's the first quarter of 2024. So, why can stocks go higher? Because companies are still earning a lot of money. Corporate profits are still climbing, and the stock market will react favorably to that. And on the right in the middle is the personal consumption expenditure. It's another measure of inflation. You can see inflation peak back in 2022 has been declining, and the core rate of this measure is 2.8%. The consumer price index that you saw today, that came out at 3.4%. So, and if this chart were longer, what we would see is inflation decelerated by a rapid amount, but it's kind of been bouncing around sideways for about 9 months now. We just kind of reached that point where it just will not go down. As a result of that, I saw yesterday in an article that small business confidence is at 11-year low. Small business owners' confidence at 11-year low. And it's directly related to inflation because they're struggling with inventory prices or food prices and not being able to get the margins. So they're trying to raise prices.
Wages.
Already have done that. Now they're trying to raise prices some more, and people are starting to say, "Hey, this is a lot." So it's a struggle. So this inflation picture that's been supposed to be getting better now for 3 years, actually now seems to have reversed, and that we'll watch that very close. So the Federal Reserve probably is not going to lower interest rates anytime soon. Maybe it's going to be toward the end of the year rather than last year or now, or at the first year we were thinking June. Now it's probably going to be a little bit longer. Let's talk about your portfolio on page 6. So if you look at the top level of green bars, that's the total performance net of fees of the fund, up 5.2% for the quarter. So that all came from the stock market, just really none of it from the bonds. Over the trailing 12 months, the fund's up 15.8%. So that value on the right there of $16.8 million, that's the all-time high for the fund. And you can see just a year ago, it was $14,526,000. So that's an increase of over $2 million in value of the portfolio just in the last year. Now that's been at a time where 6 months ago or 9 months ago, everybody's talking about we've got to go into recession. We're going into recession. This is going to happen. Didn't happen. And in fact, the stock market went up as much as it had. So that's a really good example of don't try to get too worried about it. Certainly don't want to sell in anticipation of I'm fearful, because the market will take off without you if you're not careful. I guess the point I would make about this, the stocks are on the bottom. You can see had a big quarter. Again, Marshall pointed out U.S. stocks doing better than small U.S. and foreign market. But look at the bond market returns. We kind of felt like finally interest rates had gotten to a level where we're going to get to see some return in the bond portion of the portfolio. And in fact, over the last year, your portfolio has earned 33.4%, quite a bit more than the bond market as a whole. But look at the quarter, we eked out just a 0.5% gain, and there was, so returns in bonds are still very modest. we still think, based on interest rates, we're going to get significantly above the 5 and 10-year returns that bonds have given us under 2%. Just mathematically, if rates are at 4 or 5%, you're going to get most of that most of the time. So I think we'll see some better times than that. If you turn to page 7, your portfolio allocation really hasn't changed that much over the last year, and we've still, we did increase the percentage in bonds above the minimum of 20% to 24% last summer, but we're still kind of hanging in there. We're not at a level where we would say, well, we want to be at the top end of the range of bonds of 40%. We still think stocks are where most of the returns are going to be. And you can see your top holdings there. Corpay is a new name, but not a new stock. It was FleetCor is what that was before. We've owned that quite some time, and some stocks that have done really amazingly well. Alphabet and Meta still continue to do well, and you can see the other top holdings there. And then this chart that we introduced to you a little over a year ago, you've got $6 million of principal in the fund, and the other $10 million is gain over time. So markets are working for you there.
I'm just going to point out there's a loose sheet in the back of your book right there. I wanted to try to make this as large as possible, and I'm just going to point out a few things here. This is just kind of an internal document that we use to manage your portfolio. So as you know, we manage a basket of individual stocks for you, and what we could do is just throw you in an index fund, capture the returns, and call it a day. But we kind of feel like we're able to enhance your returns and capture some more value for you over time, and kind of proud to say that we've done that for you. So on the top right there, you'll see the City of Conway's. This is just for this portion of your portfolio. The annual returns going back to 2019. 3 of those years above 30%, and one that's almost 20%. So the returns have been astounding. I would say temper your expectations. It's probably unlikely we get another 5 years like that. But what I'll point out is the total return of this part of your portfolio over the last 5 years is up over 126% compared to the S&P 500 of 107%. And we've been able to beat the market by over 2% a year. So proud to say we've helped add some value to the portfolio there. And then as you look through it, you'll notice a lot of names that you probably use on a daily basis, whether it's Ulta or Etsy or Amazon, Walmart. Some really high quality companies there. And then down on the bottom left, this part of the portfolio is up almost 10% so far this year.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
Thank you all very much.
See you next time.
All right.
Do we still have NVIDIA?
We do not.
I was going to say
We've owned it 3 times, and the last time we didn't buy it back once it went down, and it's gone up without us.
really.
Yeah, it has. It has. We hope we get another shot. It's a really fine company, but
it was performing. It was one of our top performers there for a while.
It was.
Yeah, I made a lot of money in that stock.
Yeah.
It made a lot. Yeah, we sold it and it went down. We've done that, like I said, multiple times, but the last time we didn't buy it back, and we should have.
Well, I don't remember the specific stories around it, but they were, as a company, their performance was down there for a little bit, right?
It was. They make chips, computer chips, and but they're really, really high performing type chips, and they're being used in artificial intelligence applications. But before that became a thing, like it is today, their high performance chips, they had too many of them in the market, and they went down for a while. But
Yeah.
they're the leader in that AI computing. Their stock right now would be outrageously priced, so it's probably going to double from here. It was down 10% yesterday. I think I saw it was down 10%. We watch it really closely.
I thought it was interesting on page 4 with the small caps and the majors that whenever the last time back in 2000 time frame, whenever there was that significant of a divergence, that it seemed that the small caps significantly outperformed the large caps moving into I'm assuming that gray bar is kind of the recessionary
That's a recession. That's right.
period. I thought that was interesting. It seems somewhat a similar divergence now.
We could overlay foreign stocks on that same chart and you would see the exact same thing. Exact
Same
thing.
correlation.
So those other asset classes have underperformed large company US and we talked about this, in this room for a really long time, really probably 12 years or something like that. When you look back, if you looked at the performance from 2010 and before, S&P 500 severely lagged those. Since that time, it's been way ahead. Been a little frustrating as a money manager because you run a diversified portfolio because it usually doesn't last that long. So we'll see. Those others are cheap.
Is that because the small caps recover quicker? Is that why that they seem to do better? Or?
They do recover greater in a recovering economy or one that's anticipated coming out of a recession because their earnings are smaller, so they have more leverage to good things happening. Doesn't take as much to make them do well. So
Yeah. They're more cyclical, think small retailers or industrials, or they just kind of perform with the business cycle a little bit. Yeah, so they tend to do better early in the business cycle compared to later. And then as you pointed out, and that divergence in 2000, that was coming off the .com bubble.
And then when you're talking about small business and their low confidence and struggles, I've never owned a business. I don't know. I mean, I know people that own them, but I'm not close with them. So I'm just totally spitballing here. But I would guess that if you are a small business and you're struggling, typically I would think one of your first things to go to try to, get more sales or whatever would be to lower your price. But I don't think they really can. As expensive as supplies are and as expensive as people are these days.
yeah, that's true. And when we talk about small businesses like that, we're talking about the businesses you see all around Conway, not the small publicly traded companies. Those are still pretty large in the grand scheme of things. But if you think about a small business owner, it's hard anyway, owning your own business. And small businesses, they hate to have to raise prices. Because they need every customer coming in that they can possibly do. So they have an aversion to raising prices, and now they're being forced, especially in food. Their costs of their goods are just going up and up and up, and it's an uncomfortable position for them to be in.
Yeah, I saw Federal Trade Commission was launching not an investigation necessarily, but they were interviewing, I think, 3 different large players in the supply chain to try to figure out if they could kind of pinpoint something aside from inflation, what was causing food costs to be as high as they are.
There are cyclical things that happen in food costs,
Supply and demand issues.
Supply and demand and the cost of grains and things like that.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of inflation from companies taking advantage.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of that, raising prices just because we can.
Yeah. And
you notice when inflation goes from 9 to 3%, you don't see them lowering prices that much.
No.
Lock that in.
They might. Your fast food chains might come out with another revamped, extra value meal or extra
a
value
piece of bacon on the top.
Well, they'll have like a section on the menu that's cheaper, but everything else is still going to be the prices they've been charging.
I drive through those types of restaurants way too much, so I'm more aware of that maybe than your average consumer. But I mean, driving through Wendy's or McDonald's, you don't do that for less than $9 to $12.
It's unbelievable.
Taco Bell used to be,
their stuff went up.
the go-to for cheap, decent fast food, and now it's right up there with everything else.
Yeah.
It's $10-12 for
3 kids through McDonald's.
Mm.
That's not. That's what you used to pay to go out to eat.
Yeah.
It's not. You'll go broke doing that. Chick-fil-A,
Oh yeah.
I'm like, I'm going home. Let's go home. I'll get a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't take this as me supporting price increases, but, think about when inflation goes from 9% to 2%, I mean, their prices are falling. It just means they're going up a little bit slower. So, it's hard to ever get to a point where you can kind of semi-permanently lower prices, but maybe the pace of increasing slows.
Is there a point where, like, like ground meat at Walmart, just cheap ground meat is just not, I mean, it is expensive. Is there a point where it goes, that they could possibly go down again, or?
Mhm.
It could, the economy and inflation is just so complex, but, cattle is just like any other commodity. The prices, they actually can go down. So it's possible that they could go down a little bit, but probably not much.
I started getting ground turkey.
Yep.
Just because it's,
Yeah.
theoretically healthier for you, and it's probably about half, maybe a little more than half the price of ground beef.
Beef or any kind of protein type product like that, if you think about it, if it's highly demand sensitive, and the being able to ramp up production of a cow takes a little while. And so if we go through a period where there's high demand, or there, for whatever reason, there's a blower head of cattle or whatever, prices will go way up, but they typically overshoot. They'll plan for growth of a herd or whatever, and then it takes them however long, I don't know how long it does to produce a cow. Anybody else knows that? But it takes a while.
My dad always told me that the time to buy beef is if you had a really, really dry summer and all the farmers weren't able to get the hay that they wanted.
Yeah.
In the fall, a lot of times you'll see a significant sell-off of your beef going to market because they don't want to have to feed them in the
Yeah.
wintertime. And you'll see a dip in prices, but a lot of times there is a cycle to that. It will rise on the backside of it, so he said load up your freezer at that point in time.
Well, the reason he knew that is because he's lived through that.
Yeah.
So the cost of fertilizer, it got really, really high. I don't know what it is now. I think it's maybe come down some, but that's a big cost to the cattle farmers, and, buying the hay, which has to be fertilized, and
Fuel.
yeah. We certainly appreciate this loose sheet. There was a little bit of a discussion at one point about, well, maybe we should just put everything into an index fund and just let it ride because that's safe, and it is very, relatively speaking, safe. But we've always felt that we've got good expertise coming from you guys, so we really appreciate what y'all do.
Thank you. The other stock funds that you have are primarily are index based. The small cap stock fund is an index fund, and so the mid cap is an index fund. So we're just trying to capture a little value in this one area. But the other we're trying to do as inexpensively as possible.
Yeah.
Let the markets do what they do, and be there when it's up 30% in 6 months when you don't expect to.
Yeah.
If we miss just one of those, just think, if we just miss 30% run in the stock market, it affects the value of this fund in perpetuity. Yeah, so you just kind of understand you're in the market, and you just got to do without, and then we're kind of operating on the fringes, just trying to improve the value of the fund over time.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. We appreciate you. Good to see you again.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right.
We appreciate you as always. You guys don't have any new business, I would take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Tyler, we got some extras. Do you want them?
I'll take them. Thank you, sir.
Busy season, or you busy too? All the time.